Everything's in 3D these days. TV shows on every streaming platform, games from most studios, basically every animated film. Heck, even things that don't look 3D are actually done in 3D, and that's my favorite type of 3D. The ones that look like they're handmade, the ones that you see the creativity behind them and the paint strokes behind them. And what better way to fight against AI than to create a new technique of creating art that AI can't replicate? Well, yet. I've been wanting to take my 2D characters into 3D models for a long time, and over the past month, I have been, since I'm taking a new Blender course. So fellow artist and friend of mine, Azusa Tojo, has this famous Blender course, which I was finally able to take due to not having a job. And I'm only a month in and can already model characters. Azusa is incredible at mixing 3D art to look 2D, and I've admired that for so long. There's so much charm in her illustrations. I've been wanting to catch this magic that she creates for a long time. So sign up to her newsletter if you'd like to take her class. And she's actually working on a pre-recorded version of her class that she's hoping to launch this summer. You heard it here first. Sign up for her newsletter. Also sign up for my newsletter while you're at it. Okay, let me get you into the video now. Let me get you into the creative process of my deep and twisted mind. So this week's assignment is to sculpt a character bust. So come on, let's take a look at the process. So this is my first time sculpting. Well, I guess technically the first time I sculpted was in grade 12 when I made this bust. So I was kind of inspired by this first bust to start with these like overall shapes of my new character, the first 3D model bust. It's kind of poetic. The challenge of Azusa's course is that you're sketching in Blender, so I'm not pre-sketching this out on a piece of paper or anything else. I am going in blind and with but a dream. And also a few references, which is the most important part of getting my concept out there, is really collecting really good inspiration and references. So I found references on first what I wanted this character's vibes to be, their, ideas for face shapes, hairstyles, the energy behind them. I wanted to make a middle-aged black man and really push those cheekbones. That's really all I had, and I knew I really wanted to push those hair shapes. A little Basquiat influence. Basquiat? And then I have references of the 3D style I want. Obviously, I'm looking at some Spider-Verse designs to get a cool 2D, 3D look. Alberto Mieglo's characters have a really unique and interesting look where the textures are flat and pushed, but the shadows make it feel 3D. I'm also looking at Jules Rigaud as a 2D style to see how I can bring in these really push shapes and flat textures into my piece. Kay Kang took this course a few years ago, and I've admired her character busts for so long. I love how it looks so flat and sketchy while still being 3D. I want that look. Okay, man, was this hard, but it was very fun. I wanted to push the stylization in the head shape, so I kept it super loose so I can push and pull the head around to make it look like a more interesting character with personality. My next challenge was the hair. Oh my god, I tried out 2, 3, maybe even 4 different ways I can approach the hair. I wanted a specific hairstyle, but I didn't know the tools to make it happen. I ended up trying to simplify my approach and just sketch out these really big lumpy shapes just to get that overall beginning shape. When I started looking at it from more of a 2D perspective, then I could identify what needed to be done to make the design more appealing. I was a little stuck on the outfit, or even the personality at this point. Is he angry? Is he serious? Quirky? Then I saw this photo on Pinterest, and I just had to do that. Then I really started to see who his character was. It's funny, it's not like I know who he is from the start. It's like as I progress, then he starts telling me who he is. Okay, I have no idea how to sculpt a body. I messed up the mesh a few times, but in the end, I got something to work, and I was very scared to start texturing. Usually I'm pretty rough and sketchy and able to scribble very easily, but I felt this character was too precious. Everything was so clean and precise, I couldn't even imagine adding scritchies and scratchies to get that look that I'm going for. So instead of starting with texturing, I go in with grease pencil to add some basic details that he's missing, like some wrinkles. I add a mustache, some loose pieces of hair, and adding these details is super fun. I'm suggesting texture and light through solid strokes instead of relying on the 3D light and textures. And I add some lights to make sure I'm painting over the final light source to get that final look. Especially since I'm trying to make it look flat, I want the paint strokes of that blue light hitting his hair. So I manually draw in those highlights to get that look. So I finally add some hand-painted textures on the skin and the jacket to make it look more like my style. I'm debating whether I should keep the glasses or not. Not sure if it's too busy for him or if it adds like a fun little thing to his personality. I ended up keeping it in because it's fun. And I love this little smoke that I'm adding into it. I just love the look of grease pencil. It's so fun. In the end, I love this piece. I never really thought I would be able to make a character this appealing in 3D, and I feel like I really leveled up. You know, I've been feeling quite down about my art, and you know, my confidence is tanking. So this really kind of made me excited to create again. And you know, seeing your art being created in a different way is, I think, inspiring. Okay, on to the next character. But wait, let me tell you about today's sponsor. I've been using Squarespace for over a decade, and let me tell you, it's the easiest tool to making super professional looking websites. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I've always used Brine as my favorite template. My site's brand is consistent everywhere on every device. My online store runs super smooth from inventory to shipping labels, and customers can use all different types of payment plans like Klarna, Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, ClearPay. So whether you're a creator, a seller, or just someone with big ideas, Squarespace makes it easy to turn your vision into reality. Trust me, it's been my home for 10 years and I'm not leaving anytime soon. Save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using my code JackieDrushko. I want to make a female character for this one. It's a challenge because I have to rely less on like chunky shapes and happy accidents in this model. And I really have to have like a clean and smooth surface in the end. My references for this character is like scene girl, lots of accessories, raccoon dyed hair. I wanted her to be Asian, which proved to be a challenge in the sculpt because it's really hard to get these flat features while still having definition and shapes. And you don't see me starting any of these sculpts because Azusa has a trade secret on how she starts her sculpts. So you're gonna have to take her class if you wanna find out. Because I'm here to talk about the creative process behind these characters. Okay, so I want her hair to be super wild and sticking out, super sharp in this mega cyber Y2K style, with braids and beads and charms and dyed ends. I also wasn't really sure what she'd be wearing, but I was drawn to this reference of the space hoodie, so I went in that direction. Figuring out how to sculpt clothing is so tough because it's really about creative problem solving and using the skills and the tools you already have to make new shapes that you've never made before. Okay, so I'm still blocking out this character, but I really want to block in her eyes more so I can start connecting with her better and she can tell me her story better. So I get this cool effect on her raccoon hair by playing with some shaders and noise effects, and I'm super proud I figured this out. I'm hoping to play more around with shaders to like learn some cool new effects, but you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I can't do it all. I have her tongue sticking out to push her personality more, but honestly, looking back, I wish I spent a little more time on her expression because it feels a little bland to me. I kind of just like pulled her mouth down without stretching her face enough. So that's just a lesson for next time. So I tilt her head some more to try to salvage it and get that personality in the posing without having to change her sculpt. So before adding any paint strokes, I want to get that lighting down, like in the first character. I need to practice lighting more. It's hard to make it look like how I want. I kind of want it to look flat, but I want it to be like, oh, that's 3D when you turn it. I want it to have this cool effect. So then I play around with her coat a bit more, locking in some colors, getting some interesting details in there, etc. I'm starting to design her hair accessories, which I'm so excited to do. Now it's gonna actually start looking like my references. I basically want her to look like she's got a bunch of gummies stuck into her hair, and I love that for her. Okay, now I've started the part that I've been worried about, which is painting. My mesh is messy for some reason, or my UVs are, or I don't know. Sometimes when I paint on her skin, the colors like fly to another part of her face, especially around the mouth and the nose. So I'm not really happy with how the mouth looks. It looks like dirty and messy. But you know, it's all a learning curve. I'm okay with it. So I draw in some highlights and I go ham on the hair, adding more accessories and, you know, stars and bubbles and you name it. Near the end of the design, I kind of think she's messy, but like not in the fun messy that I like to make my characters. More in like a muddy way. Maybe it's, you know, that I've been over texturing some parts or having messy colors here and there. I can't figure out how to color pick with a grease pencil. Does anyone know if you actually can? If you know, drop it in the comments. I am begging you to tell me. Or if you have any other Blender hacks that would be helpful for this piece, let me know. And actually, if you're enjoying watching me struggle in these sculpts, why not hit that like and subscribe button? It helps with my confidence, and it helps these videos get seen. Thank you. So this character is kind of the equivalent of my drawings of hot girl looking into the camera and posing kind of drawings, which I really enjoyed doing, but I think I'm not so happy with this model because my first one was so story heavy. It was so film ready, more unique. And this one's just like another hot girl. I think it's also in that designing a young female character in 3D presents its challenges and that she must be attractive. So this idea is kind of limiting myself, I think. I have all these ideas for fun shapes for like male characters, but I feel like I'm holding myself back when it comes to female faces. So let me try a third female character to try to close this gap. Okay, so for this character, I want a lot more story and personality. I was looking at a few different references. Honestly, none of them connected to me. I was really drawn to these wide jaws from these Jules Rigaud faces, but my photo references were all over the place. I thought I'd start with the head and see where it takes me. Usually, I love some sharp shapes and angles, but this was very difficult in sculpting. Mind you, I only use one sculpting tool, so maybe it's a good idea to start experimenting with more. But where my knowledge is in tools right now, I just had a hard time. Especially in the eyelids. The proportions are so even throughout. I wanted some really distinct shapes, like how I can draw them, but I couldn't quite reproduce that in 3D. But you know, when I'm lost, I do what I always do. I move on to something else. So I paint the eyes because I need to connect with her, and I need to know what she's trying to tell me. But then I see I've given her the Pixar smile, which destroys me. But I move on to the hair, because the show must go on and I still don't know who she is. I like this big hair part in this Jules Rigaud painting, so I kind of start there. I block in her body to give her a base, and maybe I'll get some ideas where to take this. At this point, I'm like, maybe she's wearing a gala dress, but then I don't like the idea of making her this seductress. I was just complaining that when making female faces, I struggle because I keep putting them in boxes. So why am I continuing this stereotype? Like, why am I not coming out of this? So I gotta back up. I change her hair and I give her like a much funner color. And then I see where the silhouette needs to be fluffed up, and that's the back of her head. So I give her this high pony, and then the vision becomes clearer. I get rid of this god-awful Pixar smirk, and then I give her this more like Mean Girl schoolgirl vibe. I work on her uniform a bit, and then I pivot this Mean Girl look into giving her like a lollipop. I've been restraining myself from adding hands in this stage since the assignment was to make a bust. I didn't really want to get too far ahead of myself. But then I thought, you know what, I learned a lot from these past two characters. I think I can allow myself to make a hand here, which was actually a lot less difficult than I thought it would be. And although my connections aren't really smooth, I think the hand is clear in what it's doing and it looks fine. And I think changing her expression a bit to sucking on a lollipop is very fun. And she's giving me the schoolyard crush eyes, which I think is also very fun. I'm once again afraid to paint, so I light the scene to really figure out the color palette first. I change her tie to a bow, which is a lot more interesting in terms of like shape and design, and it's cuter. Then I go in for the paint. The mesh is once again all effed up. There's all these unintentional creases and stretched planes and triangles everywhere, so my painting process isn't very smooth. But I persevere and I texture paint the outfit first, although I think I should have used grease pencil first, like my first character, and then fill in some texture painting where it needs. I think this piece is particularly messy by the end because of this. So when I start painting her face, it looks kind of muddy and she looks old and tired, and that's not really the look I was going for. I want this painted look, but I could barely use hard strokes because if I do, she'll look like this tired Tim Burton character. So I try to simplify it a little bit. Then I go in with grease pencil and I add these fun strokes to her hair, maybe some details like piercings and freckles and shines and fabric wrinkles. In the end, I think maybe I did too much and I would have benefited the piece if I kept it a little simpler and if I showed restraint. But how can I keep it sketchy and hand-drawn if I keep it simple? That's something I must learn through practice and experimentation. And then the final step is to play around with the lighting and add some final details to make her a little more appealing. And that's it. Am I happier with her than I am with my second character? I think so. I think there's a lot more personality and story behind this character. Am I happier with this character than I am with my first character? Absolutely not. I think I nailed him on the first try and I'll never make anything as good as that again. So I might as well give up. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna go and keep practicing and be better for next time. So that's the 3 character busts I made in 3 days, and I learned so much from the process. I'm only halfway through the course, and I'm excited to see what I'll create in a few weeks after practicing more and learning some more new techniques. So which character is your favorite? You already know which one's my favorite, but I'd love to hear yours. So let me know in the comments, and while you're there, why not like and subscribe? I don't know. It helps a lot to have your support. And if you want to learn from Azusa's course, join her newsletter in the description to find out when her next class drops. Also subscribe to my newsletter to find out when my next class drops. Oh my god. Very cool. Okay, everybody, I'll see you next time. Bye.